I feel the spirit moving in me. I feel the spirit moving in me.
Today's talk is "Oh, the Places Your Ego Will Go." I imagine your mind is running all over the place. Well, there's a book, "All the Places You'll Go" by Dr. Seuss. And Scott Kallenstein Grace adapted this for this skit we're about to do, and we must apologize to Dr. Seuss. Your ego will travel with you on this earth and be your companion for worser or worse.
It pretends it's your friend. It's your bestest amigo. And it pours on the guilt.
That's the mark of the ego.
It's there to protect you, to help you be strong. So it has to remind you, you've done it all wrong.
You're weak and you're lazy and you don't have a clue.
That's your drill sergeant ego trying to motivate you.
The ego wants you to be all you can be, so it gives you pep talks all day and for free.
Oh, the places you'll go. And the guilt trips you'll travel as your ego plays judge and bangs on the gavel.
But you always can get some relief from your shame
By projecting it onto others you'll blame.
For that is the ego at its beastiest best. It nurses its grievances close to its chest.
Republicans.
Liberals.
Your parents.
Your ex.
The world's just teeming with folks to correct.
If only these fools would conform to your ways, you could get on with your life without further delays.
The ego's always finding new gripes to complain about.
Turns molehills to mountains of yikes to feel pain about.
Sometimes the ego stuff gets stuffy. You come down with a cold or an ouchie more roughy.
But there's no time for rest, so get up out of bed. If you're here in the now, you won't get ahead.
Your to-do list must buzz like bees when they're busying, filling your days till they're endlessly dizzying.
Oh, the places you'll go and the people you'll see.
All through the lenses of what's in it for me.
Because the ego believes there's something it lacks. And until it's found, it won't let you relax.
Perhaps you will find it in the next one you date.
True love at first sight, with a soul kind of mate.
The romance is hot till the climate turns cold.
Because when two halves collide, they do not make a whole.
It's great till the love gets obscured by control.
For when two halves collide, they cannot make a whole.
So the ego moves on, ever constantly striving, addicted to seeking, afraid of arriving.
You're traveling fast at the speed of surviving, with fear in the driver's seat doing the driving.
Or maybe you're on the fast track of success.
You're constantly driven to be great, better, best.
You're a mover, a shaker, a big-time achiever.
You're a real self-made man.
Or a dazzling diva.
You're rich and you're famous and you make quite a splash.
You're on top of the world. You are rolling in cash.
You drive the right car.
You've married the right spouse.
Today, lunch with Oprah.
Tomorrow, the White House.
But at night, insecurity pays you a call, because you know at any time you could lose it all.
Your shrink says you should rest.
Your spouse sure agrees.
Your doctor says ulcers.
Take 14 of these.
You know you should slow it down sooner or later, but your foot is just glued to that accelerator.
Your ego consoles.
Well, at least you're successful. It's a sign of success to be constantly stressful.
You've made it to prime time and everyone loves you.
But your self-esteem's based on what others think of you.
And opinions can change in the blink of an eye.
Which is why you need meds just to sleep or get by.
One day, when you failed and succeeded enough, you witness your ego exposed in the buff.
And you realize behind all its protective clothing that the ego is simply a state of self-loathing.
And beyond that, you realize the biggest of deals.
You've dreamt
up the ego.
It's not even real.
So for richer, for poorer,
In all kinds of health,
you make a commitment to love yourself.
You release the projections you placed upon others and find through forgiveness that peace is discovered.
You realize the love that you search for outside you is what you are made of and can't be denied you.
So you let go of your worries, your plans, and your pills. You put the logs on the fire and learn how to chill.
Your old superstitions have gone up in smoke.
like you can't rest in peace until after you croak.
You no longer fear death, for that matter, life.
Because you know that all matters are safe and all right.
While resting in peace, you will soon be inspired to go out into the world with some newfound desires.
Desires that spring from your heart and your soul. And wherever they take you, you go to it whole.
For the ego is now in the passenger seat. It rolls down the window and takes in the treats.
There's no need to hurry. You're taking it slow.
Because the journey's as rich as the places you'll go.
Where you are going, you don't need to know.
Because the journey's as rich as the places you'll go. The journey's as rich as the places you'll go.
Well, that was fun. And I have to say, as I'm doing this, that I love fun. Now, when Carol did the wonderful chaplain prayer, she said my talk. And that's there and there. So, what we're going to focus on is we have these two aspects of being. We know them to be true, and we've certainly experienced both in multiple ways. Now, as long as we're in this body temple, whatever name you give it, we're going to be dancing with these, the Christ and the ego. And sometimes we'll be more in our Christ, we'll be sometimes more in our ego. And we go back and forth, and there's nothing wrong with that. But know that we do have conscious choice to direct ourselves where we're going to be. And so in this talk, I'm going to use some of the wisdom behind Scott Kalkstein's Grace wonderful little skit. Sorry, Dr. Seuss. And we're going to look at God, Christ, ego, and before this is done, give you some very simple steps to reach enlightenment. Does that sound good? Yeah. So, within this Christ, and we're going to look at what Christ means, but under this heading of Christ, there's knowledge. This is the kind of knowledge of you just know. The deep knowing. The deep knowing of being. This also is where we illuminate truth, capital truth, our highest truth, the truth when we affirm the truth when we pray the truth. Now, on the other side, there's the ego. Now, the ego that we're going to be talking about is that ego aspect that is the perception. The ego is how we perceive everything. Too hot, too cold, high, low, good, bad, indifferent. It's also illusion. Now, if you're like me, I love illusion. I love it because I make up all kind of stories about who and what you are and why you don't like me and why I don't like you. And it's also the illusion that gives me the ability to maybe this time I can make chocolate mousse just like Kealoha. It's possible. We can do it through that illusion. So, what's true with our ego is it's not all bad. In fact, the ego has wrong-mindedness, the uh-ohs, the judgments, and it has right-mindedness. The ego also can tune into, that's good, that's love, this is generous, this is hope. And our Christ is unchanging. It's connected with the one-mindedness, another word for God, ever-present, spirit. And spirit is linked with the right-mindedness of our ego. It's like a whole system that's working together. Now, what's true is the ego's one fearful belief. You are separated from God. Whenever we feel separate, whenever we get to that place where we're feeling alone, when we feel like no one understands, and it's not right. I know what right is. I know what really right is. And that's where the ego gets us into a little bit of trouble. Now, across the world, there are many religious traditions that know this truth. Our own co-founder, Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity, Myrtle Fillmore, didn't write this. Charles did. The personal self is the ego around which all thoughts that bind us in error. So we know that wrong-mindedness is going to be a step towards pain, discomfort, separation, disillusionment, or just plain confusion. Like, where am I? In the Shinto religion, from Revelation of Makoto Seva, if we keep unperverted the human heart, which is like unto heaven and received from earth, that is God. That's this same oneness of mind that we talk about in unity. It's the Christ. In Buddhism, from the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, every being has the Buddha nature. This is the self. This is that strength of being that we have in the Christ. Who else has something to say? The Hinduism, from the Chandogya Upanishads, that which is the finest essence this whole world has, that as its soul, that is reality, that is the self, that is thou art. So this presence is acknowledged amongst many traditions, more. From the African tradition, this is the Susu prayer. Father, almighty force, that force which is in everything, come down between us, fill us until we become like thee, until we become like thee. All of these continue to focus us to the being that in unity we call the Christ. Now, Islam, from the Quran, says, I have breathed into man of my spirit. Charles Fillmore goes on to write that Christ is the one perfect pattern. Everyone desires to overcome all errors. Each should therefore be wise and identify himself with the Christ. So this is where I got the idea for this talk. Because in my life, I was experiencing moments of stepping into the shadow. The shadow that had me caught up in pain and anger and fixating on some point of truth that I knew was true, and it was all your fault. So I was just going to tell you again and again. And then if you didn't hear it, I was just going to say it a little louder. And then I'd say it louder more. Which is when I really get unhooked, I start to channel my father, who was a bit of a rageaholic. He just loved to express himself very loudly. So what I learned again through this process is that I needed to come home to the truth of my being. I needed to stop and reflect on now. And from that place, I could go, okay, there's a roof over my head. I've had a meal today. I love Maui. I can breathe. I'm healthy. And then from that place, I could begin to let go of what my mind was telling me. But ever done that? Fill in the blank. That's everyone desires to overcome all errors. That error thinking is the only place we experience pain. It comes from that resistance to being. Now, yes, we can be present, and our body can feel a lot of pain. I've been there. If you have chronic pain of any kind, you can be totally present in the moment, and it doesn't just wipe away the pain. But it does equip you to be able to ride the pain, because the resistance to pain only makes it hurt more. So we come home to this truth, and I've got this wonderful little tidbit from Gary Renard of how to live in right-mindedness. Now, Gary Renard's a Course of Miracles teacher and accomplished writer, Disappearance of the Universe. He's really done a lot of great work. And he says this: meditate. Of course, it comes to that. We kind of say that every week, meditation. But it's important to meditate every day, maybe more than once a day. 2 is advanced forgiveness. Now, this is not the kind of forgiveness as, oh, well, I forgive you. Oh, you've had enough of me not talking to you, I forgive you now. It's not that kind of forgiveness. Advanced forgiveness is the kind of forgiveness that comes from knowing that we're all one. That everyone is a perfect, emanating child of God. And that whatever the situation is, it's all an illusion. It's all within. If we're all one, if we're all love, then I can look at you in the eyes of love and accept you just as you are with no judgment. That whatever pain has caused you to say what you did or done what you did, I can give an advanced forgiveness because I already know that it's an illusion. Now, part of the advanced forgiveness is when someone's really hurt you, because we've all been hurt by people. We do need to drop into and let go of that attachment, because as long as we're in unforgiveness, guess who's feeling the pain? They probably don't even know you're upset about it. And that might be 50 years later. And 3 is guidance from Holy Spirit. Listening to the presence within, listening to our intuition. And it's interesting, sometimes God talks through other people and listen to what other people have to say. Oh, I noticed. Go, wow, just what I needed. So, something to think about. Now, how to reach Christ consciousness, we turn to Paramahansa Yogananda. And he says, read a little, meditate more, and think about God all the time. I love this because it's an aspect of life we can do. If you can read, if you can't, look at the pictures. Meditate more, meaning if you already have a daily practice of meditation, and if you're in unity, chances you do, meditate more. Add to your meditation. And think about God all the time. If we can stop, be present in this moment, and connect with our heart, it's very easy for us to breathe and sense spirit for love, peace, joy, harmony. It's quite beautiful, and it's always present. Because that Christ nature that we talk about is always present. I've turned to the words of one of my favorite unity authors, Martha Smock, from Listen, Beloved. Something finer, something greater, something higher. This is what Christ in you, your own God self, always calls on you to be and to express. Always present, always present. Now, this is when we can turn to, so that when we're in that place of ego trial and we're trying the world or our spouse or our kids or our boss or fill in the blank, and we're in the grip of ego wrong-mindedness, we can drop into our center, into the heart, and we can explore something finer, something greater, something truer. And from that place, all that wrong-mindedness falls away. It's amazing. We talk about the illusion, but it just falls away. And we're left with this now moment. Now, this now moment is where God is. God isn't in the past. God is in the future. God's only in the now, in the unchanging present of the eternal now. And we tap into that through our Christ consciousness, that presence of being that allows us to explore the truth. Now, Christ is not Jesus' last name. It's a recognition of an achievement. A man from Nazareth who walked, learned. When he stepped out to teach, he taught from a place of anointed Christ consciousness. And his teaching is very pure. And we celebrate this season of Christmas honoring that truth in Jesus, when he walked the earth, is the truth in us in every moment. So if you have the habit of saying Jesus Christ, why not call yourself Garrett Christ, Christy Christ, Gary Christ, Patricia Christ? Say your name right now with Christ after it. Beautiful. Now that's not acknowledging a last name. It's announcing an intention worth working towards. Opening our heart and our wisdom to be the Christ is not being some superhero. It's being present now, 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 now. In truth, if God has a clock on the wall, I doubt it, but if God has a clock on the wall, it says now, 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 because that's all there is. There's nowhere else to go. But like this skit, all the places your ego will go, in its illusion and perception, it will dance a dance of, what about this? What about this? What about, oh, it's always seeking for something new. Now, sometimes it comes across something new that's really quite fabulous. So there's a two-part plan. This is how to reach enlightenment, how to start having business cards with your name with Christ on the end of it. If you have a PhD or a DDS or a OH or a whatever after your name, you can then add Christ after it as well, because that's an achievement you've earned. So first, morning and evening, read a little and meditate. Now, this isn't reading the newspaper. This is reading some spiritual food. Be the daily word, it could be A Course of Miracles, it could be the Bible, it could be there. You've got yours. And if you don't, you can pull up Kindle and download anything you want. Read a little and meditate. And if you don't meditate yet, start with 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night before you go to bed. 5 minutes, that's 10 minutes out of 24 hours. Not that difficult. But do it. And if you already have a meditation practice, add 5 minutes in the morning and the evening. Read a little and meditate in the morning and the evening. The second is throughout your day, practice total forgiveness. Forgive yourself, forgive your partner, forgive your grandkids, forgive your ancestors, Forgive your 8th grade teacher. Forgive your coach. Total forgiveness. And believe me, if you've got it recorded in your subconscious, at some point one of those old memories will come forward. And that's when we can forgive it. Because I haven't figured out how to open the door to my subconscious and just go, okay, let's just empty this out here. But it does come up. And I'm grateful now when it comes up. And it's usually when I'm in reaction to something. It's usually when it's like I've stuck my finger into the socket and I'm going, because that's what happens to me when I get triggered. But if I stop, go inside, I can find out the truth behind that. Oh, my little boy inside is sad. My little boy inside has been trying for a long time to just express himself. And I can consciously say, it's okay, little Gary. Want some ice cream? Uh-huh. I can give my little Gary all the ice cream I can't eat. It's good. And then think about God. And we can think about God in the outer, and certainly being here in Maui and seeing incredible rainbows and the greening hills and the clouds and the rain and all the life that's here, the ocean. But also the God within us, the one that we may or may not have spent enough time communing with. Might start by just saying, welcome, God. Thank you, God. If we can, this is Thanksgiving weekend. Let's not forget gratitude. Because if we can be grateful for everything in our life in the present moment, we're conscious of where we're going next. Because it's really just living life to the fullest. But I want more joy. I'm teachable. I'm willing. I'm open. I'm available. And so my motto, my creed, that the day that I got ordained came to me was God talks, I walk. God talks, I walk. I like it because I can remember it. And then God infuses my life with wisdom, with hope, with healing, with grace, so that even when I fall down and I become very unconscious and resemble more of a cockroach than a human being, I can give myself love. And then I can do what I need to do to come home to myself. And that's really what it's about, is coming home to ourselves. And so this affirmation that I wrote for today seems quite appropriate because we do want to release all that error thought. And we do want to come home to that Christ nature. So let's say this together. Releasing all fear and doubt, I am one with my Christ nature. Thank you. And now we'll take a moment and have a meditation. Since it's one of the first things we should do to have right-mindedness, let's take time now and close the outer eyes. And one of the first things I like to do is to breathe deeply and easily. In and out. In and out. Realizing that we open our heart to the beloved presence of our divine nature. And within that, we call on the deepest knowing of truth within us to connect with our Christ nature. We will become more and more comfortable with the incredible power we are when we stand in the presence of our oneness. We open our heart and allow for this time to connect and welcome God into our heart, who's already in our heart, already in every cell of our being. But is there something I need to know right now as we enter a time in the silence? We are eternally grateful for ever increasing awareness of our oneness with God. In my meditation, God said, I love you, and you are love. If you didn't get any message or affirmation or truth in your meditation, then feel gratitude for your wholeness, for a moment of serenity, a moment of being, as we say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And so it is.
Where I live, there are rain.